Hey there, if you're an economics or finance student, you already know that time series analysis is a huge part of your work. So today, we're going to dive into EViews, a tool that's designed to make your academic forecasting projects not just easier, but way more insightful. Does this look familiar? You've got your data, you've got the assignment, but you're just kind of staring at a spreadsheet, feeling stuck. Trust me, it's a super common feeling. You are definitely not the only one. This forecasting stuff can be pretty tricky to get your head around. So why are these projects so tough in the first place? Well, it's not just about dumping numbers into some software. There are actually a few hurdles that can trip up even the sharpest students. Let's break down what they are. Yeah, the struggles are real. First off, you're wrestling with some pretty complex statistical ideas. Then, you've got to pick the perfect model out of like a million options. And before you even do that, you have to clean your data. Because if you get that wrong, your whole forecast is basically useless. And finally, when you get your results, what do they actually mean? Figuring that out is a whole skill in itself. Okay, so before we jump into any solutions, we have to build a solid foundation. You gotta understand a few key time series concepts to produce a forecast that's actually reliable. This is the groundwork that makes all the cool stuff possible. All right, first up is a huge one, stationarity. All this really means is that your data's basic properties, like its average and its variability, aren't changing over time. Think about it. It's way easier to predict where a stable, stationary target will be, right? It's the exact same idea here. And this is so important because if you model data that isn't stationary, you can get results that look right but are actually completely wrong. It gives you that stable base you absolutely need for a good model. Next up are two things you'll see in data all the time: trend and seasonality. A trend is just that long-term direction. Is it generally going up or down? Think about a country's GDP growing over decades. Seasonality, on the other hand, is all about those predictable, regular cycles. Like how retail sales always spike around the holidays. Spotting these is absolutely essential. Now let's talk about two of the fundamental building blocks for these models. On the left, you have autoregressive models, or AR. These basically use past values of your data to predict what's coming next. On the right, you have moving average models, or MA. These are a little different. They use past forecast errors. In other words, the model literally learns from its previous mistakes to make better predictions down the line. Pretty cool, right? So what if we could bring all this together? Well, that's exactly what an ARIMA model does. It combines the power of both AR and MA, but the secret sauce is that I in the middle. It stands for integrated, and it's the part that handles that non-stationary data we were talking about. It does this using a technique called differencing, which is just a fancy way of saying it looks at the change from one period to the next, and that helps stabilize everything. It's what makes this model so powerful for real-world data. Okay, we've talked about the concepts, we've talked about the challenges. Now, let's talk about the tool that's specifically designed to help you handle all of this: EViews. So what is EViews really? At its heart, it's a piece of software built specifically for doing econometrics and time series analysis. Its whole purpose is to take all these complex things we've been discussing and make them way more accessible. And here's why it's pretty much perfect for student projects. It just makes the whole process so much smoother. Getting your data in is super easy. It's got great graphing tools, so you can actually see the trends and seasonality yourself. And remember stationarity? EViews has built-in tests like the famous augmented Dickey-Fuller test ready to go. The whole interface just makes estimating your models and creating forecasts incredibly straightforward. Theory is one thing, but let's make this real. We're going to walk through what a practical, real-world forecasting project looks like, predicting a country's GDP. So, here's the game plan you'd follow in EViews. Step 1, you bring in your historical GDP data. Step 2, you graph it. Get a feel for what's going on, look for those trends. Step 3 is the big one. Run that ADF test to check for stationarity. Then, based on what you find, step 4 is picking and estimating the right ARIMA model. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for, you generate your forecast, and you even get confidence intervals that show you the range of what's most likely to happen. Now, having a tool like EViews is a massive advantage, but it doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. Knowing what to watch out for is really what separates a decent analysis from a great one. So let's cover some of the most common pitfalls. Here are 3 huge ones. Number 1, just straight up ignoring stationarity. The pro move, you always run a unit root test first, period. Number 2, misinterpreting p-values. Don't just look for little stars in the output table. You have to understand what they're telling you about whether your model is actually valid. And finally, messy data. You've heard it before, garbage in, garbage out. Making sure your data is clean and reliable has to be your top priority. So, where do you go from here? Just like the quote says, it's all about hands-on practice. We've gone through the ideas and the workflow, but you really get good at this by doing it. So the main takeaway is this. Get your hands on EViews, find a dataset that looks interesting, and just start playing around. Try different models, build your skills, and see what you can discover. With a tool like this, you're totally equipped to tackle those complex projects and create some really impressive work.